history is a lie. How was George Washington and his family described during the Revolutionary War? To better understand who George Washington was, let's read from Nicholas Marceau, Earliest American Ancestor of George Washington, by John Bear Stout. Page 1. Quote, "For there was a distinct French Huguenot strain in the lineage of George Washington. It came to him from his first American ancestor, Nicholas Marceau, a Huguenot refugee who came to Virginia in 1620. This infusion of Huguenot blood into the Washington family is of special interest, both to historians and to psychologists. Let's refresh our mind on who the Huguenots are. From History of the Conquest of Spain by the Arab Moors, by Henry Copy, page 445, quote, "It has been asserted that, when the Moors were driven out, thousands took refuge in the south of France, who afterwards, abhorring the Roman Catholic persecutions, became Huguenots, and that of these many emigrated at a later day to South Carolina." End quote, it is said. Fully 3.5 million Moors, or Moriscos, as their descendants were called, left Spain between 1492 and 1610. Over 1 million Moriscos made their way to France, where the vast majority of them became Huguenots. It is in France where many of the last descendants of the Almoravids, as well as other Berber groups, settled. We now know the first American ancestor of George Washington was a Huguenot with Moorish ancestry. With that knowledge, let's read how George Washington was described by English officers at the beginning of the Revolutionary War. From George Washington, A Biography, Volume 2, page 239, quote, "On the basis of Van Horn's description, added to what the traitor had said casually in his letter of himself and of his military position. What tall, dark officer was there in America, 38 years of age, unmarried, who had an aide-de-camp and was going to participate in the expedition against Fort Duquesne? The only officer who was known to Lord Loudoun's informants as in any way answering to this description was Colonel Washington." On the next page. When the colonel was returning from the visit to General Shirley in Boston, Loudoun consequently asked Kennedy for a description of the Virginian Washington. Said the captain, "Was a man about 6 feet high, of a black complexion, with black hair, which he then wore in a bag, looks like a foreigner, a strong man." End quote. This image is said to be a contemporary painting of George Washington and his Moroccan assistant. Does he look dark, complexioned, and wearing his hair in a bag like we just read? Through my years of research, I find it amusing how beside many paintings of whitewashed individuals, there is often a brown or dark person beside. It's also interesting how the assistant is said to be Moroccan due to Washington's Huguenot Moorish ancestry and him wearing his dark hair in a bag. Apart from George Washington's description, the book also confirms dark complexion and black complexion are synonymous at the time for describing someone with a darker than brown complexion. In his younger years, Washington is also described being of a weathered ruddy complexion, a darkish red. Now, let's read how his stepdaughter Mary was described. From Mary and Martha, the mother and the wife of George Washington, page 119. Quote, "That sweet young woman, the dark lady, as she was called, because of the deep brunette of her complexion, also came to be regarded by the poor and the afflicted as an angel of mercy. I don't mean to insult anyone's intelligence. Everyone knows what complexion means. This word has not changed since its first use in early modern English. However, some people might still get confused because the word brunette has indeed changed in the early 1900s. So, let's read from an early modern English dictionary published in 1768. Brunette. A woman with a brown complexion. Complexion. The color of the face. We have seen in our previous video how the men fighting in George Washington's company when he was still Colonel Washington looked like. Majority of the men were Europeans of dark complexions, just like Washington himself, mostly from the British Isles and born in the colonies. There were also some from Germany and Holland. Now we are going to look at the whole company. The words underlined in red describe soldiers with pale or fair complexions, while those in brownish yellow describe melanated soldiers. And blue indicates what foreign country the soldier was born in. Right from the start, we can see the first sergeant, Reuben Vass, joiner by trade, born in Virginia, is dark-complexioned, while the second sergeant, James Littlepage, carpenter by trade, born in Virginia, is fair-complexioned. View the rest at your leisure. You can easily pause the video before we change pages. The vast majority of these soldiers are brown and dark-complected, from Ireland, Scotland, and England, or born in the colonies. We can even see a dark-complexioned German. We thought all Germans fought as mercenaries on the English side. But as we can see, history is not so